Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the firm differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another amazing guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today I have a treat for you. Our guest is Charlotte Isaac. Now, Charlotte Isaac, she is going to blow your mind when it comes to automating your systems, creating systems and processes in your business, all that kind of stuff. And some people really geek out on this. It's not me, but Charlotte Isaac does. And I'm excited to share her with you today. So let me tell you a little bit about her. She's a business operations consultant, gave up her role as a corporate ops manager inside of a creative agency so that she could serve small business owners who love their people just as much as she does hers. Through her signature program, Ease Seeker Society, and her DIY Dubsado shop, Charlotte helps overwhelmed and overworked entrepreneurs build customized solutions so they can serve their clients better, automate busy work, and feel confident in their business. Blessed with a travel bug herself, Charlotte leads by example, having designed her own business in a way that allows plenty of space to enjoy life with her husband, both in their hometown of Sydney, Australia, and around the world. And I don't know if I'm even supposed to share this because she told me in the green room, and I didn't ask, hey, can I share this on the podcast? But Charlotte is an expectant mom, and she's going to be welcoming a child into this world. So I don't know how her traveling plans are going to be affected by this new interruption. We'll find out. But before I bring Charlotte on, we're about to have a great conversation, and I'm really excited about that. But I want to make sure that you are aware of this offer. So as you know, I am a coach for law firm owners. We run the elite law firm coaching program, and our elite lawyers are able to double their revenue and 10x their profit in 12 months. And I want you to be able to experience that level of accelerated growth. And the way to do that is to start with unlocking what might be stopping you from doing that in the first place. How are you getting in your own way? What are the things that are preventing you from experiencing that rate of growth? And if you want to learn that, you can access a free coaching call with one of our coaches right now. All you got to do is go to profitwithlaw.com/free coaching, profitwithlaw.com/free coaching, and get access to a free coaching session with one of our lawyers. Now, in full transparency, because you know that we're not about hiding anything. At the end of that call, if you're a fit, you will be offered an opportunity to join our elite lawyers coaching program. It's not cheap, but if you're ready to take that next step in your business, then you definitely want to come prepared to have that conversation. Either way, whether you're interested in joining or not, you absolutely could take advantage of that free coaching session. And everybody talks about how they walk away renewed, inspired, energized to take the next step in their business. So if this is you, if you feel stuck, if you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm in the same place I was last year or 2 years ago, or I'm moving backwards, then definitely book that free coaching session right now. profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. Charlotte, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Moshe. I'm excited to chat.
So one of the things that we covered immediately when she got on was, oh my gosh, you're in Australia. It's 3:00 in the afternoon here. It's 5:00 in the morning by you. So Charlotte's a real trooper. She woke up early to be with you guys today. So I really want you to appreciate what's going on here and how she's really going out of her way to provide content for you. So hopefully we're going to blow some people's minds.
No pressure to me.
No, none at all. So Charlotte, I like an easy softball pitch over the plate to get you started. I want to see you be able to hit a home run. Tell us a little bit about Charlotte. Our listeners want to know, who are you? How did you get into what you're doing? Why are you here today?
I love making business easier. That's why I'm here. How I got into what I do, as you mentioned before, I was the operations head for an advertising network. It was a really cool job. I traveled a lot. I got to set up new agencies. My whole career has been working behind the scenes to make businesses better and serve clients better and make sure that we're not spending all of our time on client admin and all of that kind of stuff, because it really does suck up a lot of time. I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate to how much time they're serving their clients and everything that goes with that. So I knew that in starting my own business and working as a consultant, I could create a lot more freedom and flexibility for myself, give myself time to travel, which, as you mentioned, is about to be eaten up by a new child. But create something that works for me and help others do the same at the same time, because I know that your listeners are all about having a profitable business, but also one that gives them balance and they don't have to work the weekends and nights and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And my number one motivating factor is family. My perfect ideal world looks like I wake up in the morning and I have breakfast with the kids and I hang out with them and we have a wonderful morning before they get off to school. I take them to the bus stop, put them on the bus, and then I go and I spend an hour to 2 hours taking care of my own body, personal exercise, meditation, everything I need to do. And then I work for a few hours before the kids come home, and then at 3:30 in the afternoon, which that's a really short day, right? 3:30 in the afternoon, the kids come home and boom, I'm done. And I can now spend the rest of the day with them, take them to their after school activities, hang out with them, practice ball in the yard, cook dinner together, do projects, whatever it is. I want the focal point of my life to be my kids, not my business. And I think that that's why a lot of people enjoy listening to me, attending my events, because I want to create that for other people too. I want to give them an opportunity to experience a life like that. And it's not perfect, by the way. I'm not doing that to the T. There's plenty of days where I'm not picking the kids up from the bus and I'm still working. But it's a lot closer to that than it ever was when I was working a 9 to 5. And as long as I remember why I'm doing this, I can hold myself accountable to that. And one of the things that having that focus, like making sure that this is really why I'm doing this and keeping that front and center, has also encouraged me to expand my team a lot faster than most entrepreneurs do. And really adding people to your team is that one of the main keys to growth. And it's opened my eyes as a coach who helps other business owners. It's opened my eyes to realize that really I need to encourage them to do the same. Like, you need to hire people way before you think that you do. So tell me, in your consulting services that you do with clients, your focus is on what?
My focus is on systems and automations generally, which touches on so many other things. It's probably similar to when we start to talk about hiring. There's lots that comes before and lots that comes after. So really what we try and do is do two things in one go: use systems to both improve the client experience and also save time. So we're going through things like how you work with your clients, how to make that process easier, faster for both you and your client, and then how we can automate it. And I'm generally using a tool called Dubsado, which I don't know whether you've dabbled in, played around with, even heard of it. It's quite unknown in the legal industry, but it is amazing for lawyers.
Yeah, so I have heard of the tool. I've never used the tool, and I actually had a client who does use the tool. She's not a client anymore, but she swore by it. We'll dive into, potentially we'll dive into the tool itself, but I think that more globally, there's a lot that we can learn that's not nuanced to the tool that can really be helpful to everybody, no matter what tool they're using.
Absolutely.
But my first question is nobody wants to create systems and processes, right? Like, we don't wake up in the morning and say, oh, I need a good system today, right? So what is the true result that we're after, that we're creating systems and processes for?
I'm so glad you called out the elephant in the room. And I've got to be honest, that was me. I never wanted to go into operations and I somehow fell in love with this field. So if you're listening and you're like, oh, I don't know, this is not my jam, that's totally okay. The reason you'd want to do it is mostly a time savings thing. So whether you want to use that time to give yourself more billable hours, whether you want to use that time to spend with your family, really the outcome and the golden carrot at the end is time.
Yeah, and it's interesting because time is such a finite resource. There's two main finite resources in business, right? Time and money. But if you think about it, you can make more money. You can make more money whenever you want, right? You can go out there and sell something, make more money. You can stop paying for something else and keep more money, right? But time, you can't make more time. Now you can buy time, right? You can buy someone else's time. You can hire staff, and that's really what hiring staff is all about. Is I'm expanding the capacity for time in my law firm. But if you look at those resources, time is definitely the more valuable one. It's the one that you really don't get back, especially when it's your own time, right? You just can't expand it. But what you can do is you can be really smart with it, and you can be efficient with it. And I think you answered what's in it for them, like what they're going to get. You're going to get more time. But I think the problem is that most people, most law firm owners don't even know how much time they're wasting in the first place. Like they don't understand or comprehend how much time can be freed up. Is there a way for them to be able to start there, to figure out how inefficient am I? Is there an inefficiency test?
Oh, I should really come up with one and trademark it, shouldn't I? Look, I think the best thing that you can do is go through your process from start to finish. So imagine you are bringing on a client today. They've just reached out through your website. You're about to have a chat with them, be it in person or over Zoom or something like that. And take yourself mentally through the steps that you go through with every single client. So every single email that you send them, you've got to send across their contract. You've got to send across all of this stuff before you even start doing the work. And then think about what happens afterwards. I find that for most people, that blows their mind a little bit. I worked with an attorney last year who was taking on 20 consults a week. And so she was going through this process 20 times. So if you've imagined kind of what that looks like for you, because I think a lot of us just do this busy work and we, like you said, we're not really aware of how much time it's actually taking us. So go through the process once, think about how much is in that. Usually that blows people's minds a little bit. And then think about how many new clients you're taking on or how many new clients you want to be taking on. And then you can start to get a bit of a gauge.
Right. Now going through that inventory shows me how many detailed steps there are, right? But how about quantifying the time? Because creating that doesn't really tell me if that time is being wasted. It just means I'm spending that time, right? Mm-hmm. So where's the inefficiency, or where is the efficiency, or the place that now by creating a process or a system around this, I'm going to be able to create more time?
So if you want to quantify it, start to use a time tracker maybe and see, how long it takes you to respond to that first initial email, how long it takes you before you get on Zoom or in person with a client, how long it takes you to send out all the paperwork. And some of your listers, I'm sure, have VAs and things like that helping them, but they're still paying for that time. Like you said, any step that's repeatable that you're going through in that process is something that you can definitely automate. Right. And that's where all the time savings are.
Now, have you heard of the Timular?
I haven't.
Oh, I'm going to broaden
your
word.
Name.
Well, so the Timular is basically an 8-sided device. It's electronic. You label each side with an activity. And basically, as you're going through your day, you just turn it to the side that you're on. So if you're on email, you turn it to that side. If you're on client work, you turn it to that side. If you're on bathroom break, you turn it to that side. And basically, it then syncs up with your computer, and you can get like a spreadsheet of where your time went throughout the day. So one of the objections to time tracking that people have, and this is really what prevents people from going through and creating this inventory of, hey, where's my time going, is I'm not going to sit there with a paper and a pen and write down every time I'm doing something new. So what I do is I send my clients to this Timular. They have to purchase it. You can get it at timular.com, timular.com. I believe that we have a pretty link for it, profitwithlaw.com/Timular, which there's some sort of affiliate program we're supposed to be part of, but it never works. So I'm not really worried about getting any sort of affiliate like arrangement. Like I don't care. But it's really like my clients have used it very effectively to help them identify, because it's not just where's my time going, but where do I focus first when I'm trying to fix it? So if you can quantify and identify where the bulk of the time is going, you can focus there first and free up the most amount of time. It's kind of like the 80-20 rule, right? Like, 80% of my time is being spent on 20, or 20% of my time is producing 80% of the results. So if I can figure out how to get rid of the other 80%, imagine what I can do with that time to now produce even more results that I couldn't achieve before.
Yeah, I'm a little bit obsessed with that. I've written down Timular and I will be going and Googling that as soon as we hop off. But I think you're right. I think we do waste so much time, and you mentioned emails, and there's just so many things that falls under that umbrella. And once we get a handle on it and once we put systems in place, I think we can then start to be intentional and go, okay, I've got half an hour on Tuesdays, and that's when I do all of these things. And that's the only time I'm going to give this. And I think that's generally how I run my business. I don't know whether you do as well. You mentioned your ideal routine at the start of the show. And I think once we've got a handle on it, once we've got systems and people in place, that's what we can do. Instead of letting the time fill up our day, we're really being intentional about where we give it away.
Yeah, absolutely. The truth is that I deviate from my system, right? So like right now I'm batching podcast recordings and I want to just get it over with. I don't want to spend a week doing it. I want to spend 2 days doing it. So instead I'm going to work a longer day, get those 10 recordings out of the way to give me the freedom on the other days. So you have to be willing to deviate from your system if necessary to make something work for your lifestyle. But let's dive into one specific example, which I think is going to be relevant to practically every listener. People suck at email. I mean, like they really suck at email. Most of my listeners don't even realize this, but if they get the Timular and start tracking it, they'll find that they're checking their email at least 50 times a day, if not more. They're also getting hundreds of emails that are irrelevant to their life and are unnecessary to wade through. But at the same time, they're leaving it in the inbox and they're trying to like find the important ones over and over again in this landmine of terrible emails. So is there a specific system that you introduce your clients to on how to manage their email that you think can be helpful to our listeners?
Yeah, look, I think the first thing is trying to remove yourself out of your inbox as much as possible by creating a system to deal with all the emails that you don't need to. So by that, I mean having things like auto responses that are sent out to someone when they inquire on your website, having automated emails that, send out your contracts, send out all of your client follow-ups, chase up invoices, deal with all of that kind of stuff, because I think that is a huge chunk of your inbox that we can take away. The specific inbox tool I really like, and it does actually track how many times you open your inbox a day and how many times you're in there, which is terrifying. I think most people definitely are hitting about 50 with that one, is called Inbox When Ready. And it allows you to hide your inbox from yourself. You can create certain times that you want to be able to open your inbox. And it's just like a little accountability thing. But you can still dive into your inbox, search for emails from clients, pull out what you need to, but you're just not getting distracted. So I personally use that. I recommend it to a lot of all my clients. I'm a bit lucky in what I do in that I don't need to be in my inbox every day. So I have 2 days a week where I check my inbox. I allow about half an hour a day on those times. But for the rest of the time, my inbox is hidden from myself.
Wow. Inbox When Ready. We're going to check that out. Folks are going to have that linked up in the show notes. Don't worry. You don't have to stop your run to write it down. I'm also going to share a tool that I use with you. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Have you heard of SaneBox?
It's familiar.
So SaneBox is a tool that automates the distribution of emails into priority, non-priority folders. Mm-hmm. So it'll on its own, with its own algorithm, figure out like which emails are important and which ones are not. It'll keep the important ones in your inbox. It'll put the rest in something called Sane Later. And then there's other things, like you can have sane black hole, which is basically where all the spam, it's not marked as spam, but it's basically like the spam emails that you're never going to look at go. And you can train it basically by just moving the email where it belongs. So like I have a folder called client to do, and I have a folder called vendor communication. So if a vendor communicates with me, the first time that I see an email from a vendor, I'll drag it into vendor communication. From now on, every email from that vendor will automatically go into vendor communication. So it's basically a combination of artificial intelligence of management of your email, and at the same time, also automating rule writing, where you don't have to go in manually creating a rule for each email, but rather it learns as you take action. It learns from your actions. And it's incredibly accurate. I mean, like I set it up for a 7-day trial, and I thought that it broke my email. Like all of a sudden I stopped getting emails, but I wasn't. It's just that all my emails were unimportant. Like they were all ending up in the same later folder. And when I went and looked in there, I was like, you know what? It's right. Like none of these are important. And then when I got one that was important, it showed up in my inbox. But I'm used to seeing 500 emails a day, and I got one, so it's like, whoa, hold on a second. So here I am wading through. So it's not, your tool is great. I love that too, because I shouldn't be checking my email box. But when I do check it, how efficient am I in the process of going through it? SaneBox will do that for you. And I think it's sanebox.com. So we'll link that up for you in the show notes as well. One of the pushbacks that I'll get from my listener base and people listening to this podcast is very simple. Well, it's great. Your business doesn't require you to respond to people right away, but I have to respond to people right away. If somebody sends me an email, I got to respond right away. And we both know that that's not accurate, right? Like you need to respond in a acceptable amount of time, and you have to communicate with your clients. So one of the things that I saw somebody do, his name is Tyson Mutrix. I had him on the podcast here. It was a long time ago. It was one of our first episodes. So we'll link that up in the show notes too. But one of the things that he did, I sent him an email and I got an autoresponder back from him. And the autoresponder said, by the way, this is an auto response. I received your email. I check my email twice a day at this time and at this time. Don't expect a response from me until that time. And that was it. So I knew my email is not going to be seen until that time. It's clear communication, letting me know, hey, I only check it twice a day, right? And if you need to get hold of me quicker, here's the phone number to my firm. Give us a call, right? Like that. Like if it's urgent, there's other ways to get to me than my inbox if it's urgent. And I thought that was brilliant. But my question to you is, because I'm sure that you already know that, you probably are doing that for your clients. Is there some sort of cadence that you think is, strategically good for somebody to say, hey, I check my email X number of times a day. I do it at a specific time, or they shouldn't do it at a specific time. What are your thoughts on email management in that way?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with those autoresponders. I think they're so good. And I think the whole thing to remember around them is that our clients will think whatever we teach them to, like it's up to us to almost train our clients. I know that sounds really terrible, but if we communicate well, anything is possible with the way we look after our clients. So cadence wise, I think twice a day is good. Once a day is probably even better. You probably know what your own clients are going to need and how often you get urgent emails, especially if you start to use something like SaneBox. I think that's a great tool. But maybe if you're worried about it, start with twice a day. If you get to the point where you think you can do it once a day, do it once a day. I think the less time we spend in there, the better. And I also find with my clients and students that the more they get in the habit of only checking it once or twice a day, the quicker they are to respond to things. I know the people that check their inbox 50 times a day, we're in there, but we're not really doing anything. We're kind of reading the email, marking it unread so we can come back to it later. So start with twice, go to once, maybe.
Yeah, I love that. And just talking about what people are doing, reading the email, marking it unread. I mean, that's awful, right? Like, why do you want to keep going and rereading the same thing? Instead, create it doesn't happen overnight, right? You need to do it as you go, but start to create a folder structure, a filing structure where those emails go, so that if something is important that you need to return to, have a folder for that, put it there, file it there. And this way, I want to say, to get to inbox zero is when you have no emails in your inbox. I don't practice this. So I'm not going to tell you to do something that I personally am not doing, but it works for a lot of people, to get your inbox to inbox zero, which means that there's nothing in there. And when new email comes in, you know that that's the new email because it's the only email that's there. I personally do leave a lot of emails unread, but I also know that the last time I checked was this time, and therefore I'm only looking at the stuff that came in after that. Like I don't care about anything before because I've already processed that mentally. But that's like it's not efficient. Like I'm guilty as charged of being inefficient in that way. However, I have a new executive assistant coming on, and I'm not going to be checking my email at all. I'm going to be handing it off completely to somebody else.
I think that is such a good goal. I think, yeah, there's so many things we do in business that I think we really ultimately don't need to know. If an urgent email comes in, your executive assistant can let you know. If you don't have an executive assistant, you can have an autoresponder that says, for something that's really urgent, here's my phone number, call me. I think a lot of these things we do in business because we're told that's the way we have to run a business. None of us at I'm going to say university, I know you guys call it college, we're not really taught how to run a business. We're taught how to practice our skill sets. So some of it, I think, is made up rules that we have to follow, and how we manage our inbox is one of those, particularly if we've come from 9 to 5 corporate life.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we focused a bunch on email, and we probably could do a whole episode on email, but I want to move on from here. One of the things that you said that you focus on is creating a positive client experience. So talk to me about what are the nuts and bolts of a positive client experience? What would make somebody have a positive experience, and what would make their experience negative, and how much control do we have over that?
I think we've got almost 100% control. I know, particularly in the legal field, maybe something's going to go wrong that your client didn't expect, and it's absolutely not your fault. They don't like the outcome. They're probably not going to feel super, super thrilled. Potentially they can if we communicate well with them, but I definitely think there are some elements of a great client experience that we can control. So communication is a huge part of that. So making sure that we are being really proactive and intentional about how we communicate with our clients. The biggest thing I see people going wrong with there is that they don't have a process for how they communicate with clients. They kind of create the process every time. So process is the second element. Having a structure of when exactly you email your clients, what exactly you email them, what you say in each of those emails, and making sure it's consistent. It's going to alleviate a huge burden from you, but also great client experience. The other one is delivery, which I think most of us are pretty good at, but when we have a lot of clients to juggle, sometimes we're not delivering what we really need to be delivering. And then the last one is you. And I think this is a strange one to talk about in the context of the law, but I do believe, and maybe it's my creative agency background, but I do believe that our clients choose to work with us because of who we are. I'm relating to you because you're a family man, and I think some of your clients probably do as well. And that's probably why they refer you. They're probably like, what a great guy. I can see myself in him. So I think including parts of yourself in the way you deliver your services is really important as well too. So they're the 4 elements.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great point that you make, because I may show up to a coaching call with a baby in my arms, and that's like not acceptable to certain people. Like there are some people who'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm paying you $20-something thousand a year. The least you could do is get yourself a babysitter, right? And you're entitled to your opinion, and you may not be wrong. But at the same time, life happens. And when you've got 6 kids, there's bound to be something that happens. And would you rather that I didn't have this coaching call, or would you rather have this coaching call with my baby in my arms, who's not interrupting and he's doing just fine? So I have very tolerant clients to the way that I've chosen to live my life. And they get results, right? Like they're like, I'm I'm unashamed of it because I've embraced who I am, what I bring to the table, and what I can do for you. And I think that when you're involved in your client delivery, you have to be willing to know who you are and what are you willing to do or not do for your clients, and where does your what you owe them, where does it start, where does it stop, and what's a violation of that, because you don't want to not be delivering what you've promised. That would be bad. That would be bad for business, bordering on unethical, maybe even have to give them their money back if you really don't deliver. So you don't want to be in that situation. Unfortunately, that's part of business growth also, right? Sometimes you just take on more than you can handle, and now you know what's more than you can handle, right? But at the same time, you have to be able to handle it, right? You got to be able to figure out, how am I going to handle this excess capacity that I didn't realize that I don't have. We have it going on right now in my bookkeeping and accounting business. We had one person leave. We desperately needed to expand in the first place, and some of the client delivery is being affected by that temporarily. But I think that communication is key, right? Like, you need to just let people know, hey, this is going on. You might have some delays in the delivery of your product. Here's when you can expect this to be done by, so that there aren't surprises. But I think if I understand correctly with what you do, you help to make this experience better. So there's these 4 areas. How do you help your clients improve in these 4 areas?
Yeah, look, it's not rocket science by any stretch of the imagination. Like a lot of things in business, the simple answer is the best answer. So the best way to improve it is to be really intentional about it. It's to sit down with a notepad and a pen or a Google Doc or wherever you like to keep your notes, and just write down what needs to happen with your clients. It is such a simple thing. It'll probably take you 15 minutes, but even that, if you don't automate it, if you don't create templates around all of these things, that's going to make a huge difference. I find without doing that, what a lot of us are doing are making tiny decisions thousands of times with our clients. Like, what am I supposed to say in this email? Which attachment am I supposed to send? Should I send this now or should I send this tomorrow? Oh my gosh, I forgot to do this. Crap, I better do it. I was supposed to do it on Monday. It's now Thursday. So I think just being intentional and just writing out everything that you have to do is already a huge leap forward in terms of client experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about tools and automation? I guess there's two types of conversations we can have. It's like, what's the solution? What should somebody do or focus on if they're on their own, like they don't have a technology company to turn to, or a software developer or whatever? What tools are at their disposal, and how deep in the woods they need to get with it, or deep into the weeds? And then somebody who can't afford to just pay to have the solution solved, where do they go for that?
So the tool I love, and we mentioned it before, is called Dubsado. And it's basically a CRM or client relationship management tool. And you can do all of your scheduling from in there, contracts, proposals, questionnaires. The contact form on your website can be linked in, automatic emailing. So basically we create all of these templates. So first step would be to write out that process that we talked about. Second step is to choose your tool. I recommend Dubsado. It runs about $40 a month. Think about it like you're cloning yourself, and I think it's a very cheap investment for that price. And then we want to create some templates around everything. So every email you send is probably something you're typing again and again and again. So go and grab one of those from your sent box, zhuzh it up a little bit if you think you have to, pop that in Dubsado. So we want to fill it out with everything, and then we can start to automate that process.
Sure, we threw a name at it, right? But is that automation self-standing? What is a law firm who already has a practice management system in place do? Is this in place of that practice management system, or is it like before the practice management system? Like, this is just the initial lead communication intake process to bring them on, but once they're a client, we're delivering legal services to them, now they live in your practice management software.
Yeah, so generally there's a gap in the middle that Dubsado probably can't help you with. So the three things that Dubsado definitely can help you with is your leads. So how people reach out from your website, how they become a client, the onboarding process. So making sure that, if you're using proposals, sending the proposal out, contract, invoice, paying for your services, welcoming them as a client, letting them know what comes next, letting them know what they need to provide to you. Then there's the gap, and that's probably where most people go back to their practice management software to actually deliver the service. And then the critical piece at the end, which I find a lot of people forget, is offboarding. So making sure we come back into Dubsado, we thank them for working with us, we let them know what to expect from here, how they can reach us, how they can work with us again, perhaps asking for a testimonial, which I think is key, but just making sure that our clients know that we still care about them after the service is delivered and the final invoice is paid.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. Now, does Dubsado do the emailing itself within Dubsado as well? So it's like, it's almost like an autoresponder kind of setup where put some wildcards in to insert their name and stuff like that. And then you just hit play or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So it connects with your regular inbox that you use at the moment. So it just looks exactly like you're sending the emails. Dubsado is just doing it for you. So I have mine set up, and what we seek to achieve for all of my clients and students is that the minute someone reaches out from your website, they're in that sequence of events. So the first email goes out, it says, "Hi, Moshe, blah, 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 blah. The next step is coming into the office and meeting with me, or booking a Zoom call to meet with me. Or maybe it's someone on my team will review your inquiry and get back to you within the next 2 days." Doesn't really matter what it is, but we want to set that in motion as soon as someone reaches out about working with you.
Awesome. Time flies when you're having fun. We're nearing the end of our conversation on this interview. I like to close out with a couple of things. The first thing is what is one parting piece of wisdom advice that you want to leave with our listeners? And the second is, how can they reach out to you, learn more about you, perhaps do business with you if you're open to taking on clients?
Oh, parting piece of advice. Now I feel the pressure because you did say we were going to blow everyone's minds. I think that I would just say to remember that client experience shouldn't be an afterthought in our business. There's a quote from someone called Paul Jarvis, Company of One. I don't know whether you've ever read that book, Moshe.
Nope.
No. So the quote is customer happiness is the new marketing. And I know in my business and my clients that I've worked with, creating a really great client experience is not just powerful because of the amount of time it saves us. It really does become a marketing tool. And I think the more things we focus on our business that can work double time, the better. I'm all about working on the areas of our business that are going to work, doubly or triply hard for us, rather than the ones that are going to save us 1% of time. So be intentional about your client experience and treat it as a focus. You probably only need to focus on it for a few weeks, and then you can forget about it again for a few years. So that's my parting piece of wisdom. How you can find me?
I'm just gonna jump in real quick. That was Paul Jarvis was the author. The name of the book is Company of One. We're going to link that up in the show notes as well, so that you can easily find it, access it. Go ahead.
Awesome. I'm glad you jumped in on that. It's a great book. Fantastic audiobook too. So in terms of how you can work with me, charlotteisaac.com's got all the details. I have a 6-week program called E-Seekers Society, where we go through and work through your client experience with a group of small business owners. And then we look at starting to automate it using Dubsado, the tool that I mentioned. A great way of seeing whether that is a good fit for you is I have a free mini course called 7 Steps to Automation. And it's going to take you through the kinds of things that you can automate, what that automation looks like, go through those 4 ways that you can boost your client experience that we already chatted about today, and really get you started on the journey of thinking about all of these things. So if you want to grab that, charlotteisaac.com/PWL.
Okay. What's that URL one more time, a little bit slower?
charlotteisaac.com/PWL for profit with law.
So
as my Australian letters.
CHARLOTTEISAAC.com.
Yes, that's right.
And then there was a /
/PWL.
PWL. Got it. Very good. Well, good marketer always creates a separate URL for any public appearance that they have, so you can personalize the message to the people landing there or track it. So I love it. Love that you gave us our own little /. We're going to link that up again in the show notes to this episode. Charlotte, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for coming and joining us for this conversation. I know we only touched like the very, very, very surface of this topic, which could be quite detailed, and clearly that's why you have a program around it, and that's why you work with business owners on fixing it. So really love the space that you're in, the niche that you're in. And this was just like a small little piece of it. And we discussed some great resources, some books, and we talked about some tools, some technology tools you can use. I even got a chance to talk about the Timular, which it's been a while since I mentioned it. So folks, check out the resources page on the blog post for this episode. It's at profitwithlaw.com. And all of that will be linked up for you. You simply click and get to where you want to go. And if this is your first time listening to the podcast, we'd love it if you became a subscriber. All you got to do is hit the subscribe button in your podcast player. This way you get notified every time we release a new episode. We're here every single week with new content for you. I was super excited about that. And we have over 300 episodes for you to go back and binge on. So there's plenty of stuff for you to just go and get lost in and really enjoy, whether you're listening to us in the shower, on the run, kids in the car, doing a carpool, whatever it is that you're doing, that you got earbuds in your ear. We'd love to be the ones that you're listening to. So definitely put Profit with Law at the top of your listening list. And don't forget, if you want to have a free coaching session with one of our coaches, go to profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. They are ready and waiting to have a wonderful conversation with you that you will leave renewed, inspired, invigorated to continue accelerating the growth of your law firm, so that you can really step into the law firm owner that you envisioned or decided you wanted to be when you started your practice. And we'll see you guys next week. Take care. Have you been enjoying the show? We sure hope so. To make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player app. Next week, we will be back with more valuable resources and ideas on how to break the mold and take your law firm to the next level.